For the purpose of sister here, I will introduce myself again. Yeah, my name is Kwame Divine, and I'm going to be the side guide here at Asemanso to take you all through what transpired when our ancestors got to this particular point. So, to start, we'll be starting with a minute of silence in the memories of our lost ancestors. For those who were moved from the interior of Ghana on foot to get to this place, they went through hell. A lot of them died from the hinterlands to get to this place. From here to the dungeons at the Cape Coast Castle, through the Middle Passage, so many of them had to sacrifice their lives for their brothers and sisters to make it to the other end. They gone to the plantations. When they got there, so many of them had to sacrifice the little that they had to feed on so that their brothers and sisters will give birth to the wonderful people standing in front of me today. So if that's not going to be a problem to you, let's have a minute of silence in the memories of all those who lost their lives during the transatlantic slave trade. After that, I would say, may their souls rest in perfect peace. We could respond by saying Ashe or Amen. So please, let's have a minute. May the great spirits of our lost ancestors rest in perfect peace. Ashe.
Ashe.
Once again, I welcome you by saying Akwaba to Asemanso slave markets and the riverside, where our ancestors had their last ever bath. Before I start, I'll be using 3 different quotes. One from Haile Selassie, and I quote, "An awareness of our past is essential to the establishment of our personalities and our identities as Africans." And then one from Marcus Messiah Garvey Jr. "Emancipate yourselves from mental slavery. None but ourselves can free our own minds." And then here on the continent, typically among the people of Togo, the Voltarians of Ghana, and those from Benin, they have a popular saying that goes by, "Until the tales of the hunt is told by the lion, the hunt will always glorify the hunters." As Africans, anytime I read these quotes, they kind of talk about us. For the purpose of which our ancestors were enslaved, taken out of this continent into the unknown world. They gained their freedom in a way, but they didn't get to tell the side of the stories. They became the lions that the hunters came to hunt. Today, the lions are trying to find a true story. So you being here today, you are representing the lions trying to tell their side of their story. The Europeans have told their side for a very long time. And today we say enough is enough. We have to start writing, or we have to rewrite that which was written by them by visiting the land of Africa to fetch that which was left behind by our ancestors. The culture, the people, the serene environment, our heritage that they left behind. In the Akan communities, we say Sankofa Yenche. Going back to fetch that which is left behind is not a crime. So that's why we are here, to take parts of the culture. We can't take it all. We can only take parts. To go out there, back up to our homes, and then use that to teach our children. Before our ancestors left the shores of Gold Coast, deep inside their hearts, they would have been here so that they could give birth to their children on the land. They hoped to return home one day. But the ships that transported them out of this continent is not theirs. So that shattered their hopes. But they didn't give up. On the plantations, they forced their ways, fought several battles that were thrown at them, and then survived everything. They were brave enough to go through all that was given to them for you to bring back their souls. I believe we are all families of the African continent. And then you being here today is symbolizing something, bringing back the souls of all your ancestors. You are kind of the representative in that particular bloodline. So you being here is a joyful moment for both all of us here and then the spirits of our ancestors. So, how did the slave trade all happen here in Ghana or in Africa? Back then, during the Gold Coast era, there were several empires. Among them were the Ashanti Empire, the Akwemu Empire, the Denchira Empire, the Hunter Empire, and several others. The Gonjas. These empires were fighting among themselves for territorial gains to expand their territories. And during this time, the Europeans also arrived here at the shores of Gold Coast. They realized what was going on between the tribes, and then they used that against us by supplying the most notorious ones with the weapons to go out there and fight. You know, previously when they fight their battles, those who were conquered becomes part of the warlords. I mean, those who conquered them, and they become like family. It's not the one that will put you in chains or starve you to death. It's the one that will allow you to do your things normally. We call it servitude. You are now a servant, but you are free to do whatever you do to fend for your family. And your child, your newborn child, is not a servant to the king of the land. He or she is a free person. You get to do everything freely. But the difference between our form and the one that they brought to us was the one that had to put us in chains and shackles. They convinced our leaders that those people are not there, so they should hand them over to them to go and then use on their plantations by brainwashing them with the little things they brought, the guns and gunpowders, the rams and several other things, in place of somebody to go out there to work for them. Initially, they didn't know that they were being placed in chains and shackles until it got too late, that they couldn't stop it. The people of the Ashanti Kingdom fought several people in this country. They fought with the Gonja people, they fought with their immediate neighbors, the Bono people. So when you are going to Accra from here, we have a community by the road called Mankesim. They journeyed all the way from the Bono region down here, led by 3 different people, 3 strong warriors, Obruma Kuma, Adapeja, and then Osono. They are human beings that were named after animals. Osono is the elephant. Adapeja is the whale, and then the eagle. These are strong animals. So they led their people from there all the way to seek refuge by the coast. So they formed allies with the Fanti people of Cape Coast, the Ogwa people. That's how come the Ashanti people couldn't get to them. The Ashantis fought with the Denchira people. Several wars went on here in Ghana. Because of the wars, Gold Coast back then stretched to part of Togo, Burkina Faso, Mali, Ivory Coast, and several neighboring countries. And due to this, all those who were raided from all these places were forced into chains and shackles by the Europeans, moved by road through the forest to the Salaga slave market and the various slave markets in the northern part of Ghana. We have a historian here in Ghana, Professor Akosua Adomapebi. According to her, in her book entitled The History of the Indigenous Slavery of Ghana, from the 15th century to the 19th century, she made mention that out of all the slave markets we had here in Africa, Ghana or Gold Coast alone had close to 63 of those slave markets. Salaga slave market, Pikoro slave market, Sampa, Janani, Sandema, Ketekrachi. Kumasi happened to be the hub that connects all these slave markets in the northern interior to the Asemansu slave market. Then we have the Cape Coast dungeon being used as the slave market, Fort Amsterdam, Fort Williams, all the way to the Christiansborg Castle in Osu, just to mention a few. There was once a British historian who traveled during this era. In his travel journal entitled A Short History of Ghana, he made mention that out of all the slave markets I've mentioned so far, 2 of them played a significant role. The Asemansu slave market where we are standing, and that of the Salaga slave market in the northern interior of Ghana. The distance between these 2 slave markets is over 402 miles. And for our ancestors, children at the age of 12 and above, in chains and shackles, walking barefooted and almost naked through the jungle to get to this place, it took them close to 3 months, 70 good days, crossing streams and rivers through the dense forest, the nature park called the Mole National Park. They got there and the wild animals face to face. For them to walk freely through the park, the captors were using our ancestors as bait. They'll have to look among them in the chains and shackles. The weaker ones were taken out and then tied to a tree. So if the group is there, they bring them as far as this place to have them tied to the tree. And they were given multiple whips all over their bodies. The blood that oozed out of them were now sensed by the animals. And when the animals got attracted to this point, they were able to move the rest out of the pack. These people sacrificed their lives for their brothers and sisters. So many lives were lost at that particular park, at the Mole National Park. Getting here was a tough one. They met the river called the Pra River, just from Kumasi towards this place. They had to cross the river. Most of our ancestors coming from the hinterlands were not exposed to much these huge rivers, the fast flowing ones. So when they got there, it became a matter of the survival of the fittest. For that matter, our ancestors who had the strength to cross the river had to help out their little ones and their brothers and sisters. Those who couldn't were picked on their shoulders, then they managed to cross the river. Getting here was a tough one, most especially on the women. Our mothers who have come of age, they will have to go through their monthly cycles at least twice between the 70 days to get to this place. And that means blood flow. And the animals in the forest, immediately they sense it. Even you walking through the forest, they are already sensing you, how much the blood flowing on you. So anytime they are about to get to this period, they start to cry out loud, seeking for help. But where is the help? No one is helping them. Instead, they were being sacrificed. And also to shut them up, they were using 2 different treatments. One is called the stone treatment, and the other is called the metal mask treatment. The stone treatment is done in a way that they look for stones a little bit wider than their mouths, force it in there, and then had it tied around their necks, or the first bunch of leaves into their mouth, and then you will cover it up with the metal mask. That way you can shed your tears. The tears will be rolling down your cheek, but nobody hears your voice. Our mothers and brothers, our ancestors made it to this place, but when they got here, they were totally exhausted, hungry, and very dirty. When they got here, their captors saw the need for them to be fed, but they weren't fed here because they were hungry. They were fed because the buyers who are coming are looking for tough and then healthy-looking captives to be taken out of this place to their farms or to their plantations to go and work. So that makes them to give our ancestors something to eat here before the arrival of their buyers. So they were fed because of the amount of money they'll be getting out of them. After that was done to them, they looked among them, those who have the bushy hairs, the men, and then the bushy beards were taken down with a broken bottle before they walked them all to the river. So we'll be going to the river, but before we go there, let me tell you about this grace we have here. So when we get closer to it, you see that we have Madame Crystal from Kingston, Jamaica, Samuel Carson from New York City, United States, and the last one came from Barbados. Let me take you back to time a little bit in the 18th century. In the year 1804, effectively 1807, slave trade was abolished in Britain, but not here in Africa. Not where the people were being taken out of. People were still being shipped out of here all the way to the Americas. Portugal were still taking people from Africa. Puerto Rico, Brazil, several other places. People were being moved. So for those who gained their freedom in Britain, they were all shipped to the Caribbean, Jamaica, and then their neighboring countries. They gained their freedom. They started celebrating what they call the Emancipation Celebration. None of the African nations knew about this until 1994. It was in 1994 when the then president of Ghana here, the late President Jerry John Rawlings, traveled to Jamaica. On his arrival, there was a celebration going on. He is a military man. He decided to find out. He is very curious. When he asked, he was told the story about the celebration. It touched his heart. He decided that anytime he comes back home to Africa and to Ghana, he's going to celebrate it among the Africans here. So it took him 4 years, from 1994 to 1998, to put everything together. And that was the very fateful time that this place was opened up for everybody to visit, to at least learn about it. So in 1998, the first ever Emancipation Day and then Panafest started. It saw the return of Madame Crystal from Kingston, Jamaica, and that of Samuel Carson from New York City, United States. They were flown in. Crystal here was captured right here from Ghana. All the way, she ended up in Jamaica on the British plantation. When they got there, she took it upon herself to go on a hunger strike. I know how brave and a little stubborn my African mothers are. Yes, it's not that they are stubborn, but once they set up their mind right here, there is nothing you will do to them to change it. She went on a hunger strike, starving herself to death. But back then, she was caught starving herself, so they will have to force her to eat. Doing that, they were using the chisel and hammer method to take off her teeth. They will now put a funnel in there, teach the food into the funnel. With the help of water, they will stir it down her throat. That way she stayed alive, for them not to lose their valuable income. But the woman is an African woman, brave, and then up here, strong. She wouldn't want to give in to what she's being placed through. She continues starving herself. Anytime she's forced to eat, she waits until they have all left and then put her hands right there in the throat, bring everything out. According to oral history, before her death, she made known to the chief priestess that anytime, it doesn't matter, anytime slave trade ends, they should bring back her remains. If it's a finger bone, it should be brought back to the land to be buried so that her souls will now find peace. So in 1998, she was brought back together with Samuel Carson from the States. He was the first African American to rise to the highest rank in the Navy. He died and he wasn't given a befitting burial. So in 1998, they wanted to bring something of symbolic meaning for the celebration of emancipation and Panafest. And these two were flown into the country. They were moved by road until they got to the community called Anomabo, which have a fort there called Fort Amsterdam. People were being shipped from there too. The youth there, knowing the history very well, blocked the road, denying them access. They told the elders that none of these people left here via roads, nor were they flown out of this country. So if you are bringing them back home, the best way is to take them through the same channel they left. That was through the ocean. So they gave them their fishing boats. They moved the remains of these two through the ocean to the Cape Coast Castle. First stop, the door of no return was closed on our ancestors. None of them who walked through that door will ever come back home. That was the meaning of the door of no return. But these two ancestors, from behind the door, it was open, and they walked straight into the castle. Right here, they were brought back to be buried for their souls to finally find peace. So their coming was actually the return. So that particular year, the theme for that celebration was the great homecoming. The ancestors have returned. And it was a message that was sent to our brothers, our families in the diaspora, that it is now time for us to start tracing our roots. They were brought here on the 31st of July 1998, and finally they were re-entered into the land for their souls to finally find peace and connect with the spirit of the land and go out there to bring those who died to come back and then rest in perfect peace. As part of the year of return, so many dignitaries decided to come back. The Prime Minister of Barbados also had the call. She wouldn't want to be selfish by coming here alone or with the newer generations. So she walked straight to the graveyard where her ancestors were buried, assumed their bones, and then had it flown into this country to be buried alongside Crystal and Samuel, so that they will also now connect with the spirit of the land and go out there to bring back their brothers and sisters to rest in perfect peace. 11th of November 2019, that was also brought to us. It's not just one person. They collected almost all the bones right there on that particular park, brought it back home so that they will be buried here. The idea behind this is that you could bring back something that belongs to your dead relatives, the past. Something that is so valuable to a grandfather, a daughter, or any other person. Bring it right here, bury it on the land, and then it means you want their souls to return from wherever they are, right to their origin, to rest in perfect peace. Or you could come with their ashes, if you are from the family that cremates their bodies. You bring the ashes, you take it to the river, you let it fly, and then for the river to flow with it. So that's the idea behind this. We want the spirit to come back and then form a family right here in the land. Turning to the pictures on the wall, we have George Ekin Ferguson, Malcolm X, Queen Nanny of the Maroon Groups of Jamaica, the only female hero in Jamaica. Then we have George Padmore, Booker T. Washington, Harriet Tubman, aka the Black Moses. Our very own Dr. Osagyefo Kwame Nkrumah, if I'm allowed to say, I would say he is the liberator of the African nation. We have Anna Julia Copper, being the first African-American woman to obtain her PhD. We have Sojourner Truth, also a former slave who gained her freedom by fighting her own slave masters at the court. Martin Luther King Jr., Frederick Douglass, Emmanuel, aka the Whipped Peter, W.E.B. Du Bois, Marcus Messiah Garvey Jr. So you see, Du Bois there actually came back through the sea. He used the sea to the land. He didn't fly. He came through the ocean on the ship right to this country. Then we have the final person there called Captain Bruce from Suriname. These are our freedom fighters that we have displaced here. And then just one person is from Ghana. But they are all Africans. We want the family in the diaspora to know that we don't just acknowledge people of the land, but we acknowledge them as well for their role, for the roles they are playing in the lives of the Africans. These people were freedom fighters. They died at gunpoint so that today we will be here and enjoying the peace that we have. We will now walk to the river where they finally took their bath.